Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of me rambling on about something on my desk that just crossed it. This happens to be information or 2 bits of information about Cyberpunk 2077, one of the greatest RPGs that's going to be coming out in the next decade, or so they say. And one of the things that's always cool in the RPG world is to be able to select a background profile on your character, which the character is V. And as reported by PC Gamer, you could start off as the Nomad, the Corpo, or the Street Kid. Now, if we actually look at this status screen, it doesn't quite translate to how that Corpo, Nomad, or Street Kid works. We just see you can choose your childhood hero, you can choose a key life event, and why you're going to Night City or why you're in Night City. So you might think that why you're going to Night City will explain your origin point, which is what determines which location you start playing in. But it's not clear as to how that works. Because if you look at the points for why Night City, you have unfinished business, you have an ex-lover in town, and you have something to prove. So that doesn't really translate to those 3 options. And you would think that you might have 3 starting points with one of these selections, and then these other options will determine other prompts or dialogue options or conversational topics with other characters or other plot points or whatever. We're not too sure. This is already a step up from, let's say, Mass Effect, where you got to choose your psych profile and your background. So if you're a sole survivor of a catastrophe where all your team died, whether you were a war hero or ruthless, you had some sort of quest in the first Mass Effect game to reflect that. There wasn't really anything to do with the second Mass Effect game, and I believe Liara and her time capsule in the third game was just sort of talking about you in a storytelling manner. So there's no real connection to connecting with Shepard as a character, at least within gameplay or at least within a quest line, aside from the first Mass Effect game. So already Cyberpunk is doing something more than your typical or average Bioware style game. Now you might think also, hey, how about Dragon Age Origins? There were Origins that were much more detailed, and that's true. So we don't know the extent of the prequel concept of building your character aside from a starting point, and of course the creators of the game will not reveal too much information. So we don't know too much about what's going on with Cyberpunk's 2077 character creation stage. And that's fine, but it's always cool to figure out all the details they're sharing with us, or they can share with us. Now, one bit of information that was released, I think yesterday, or I found about it this morning, was that CDProjektRED was making more than one Cyberpunk game. And in fact, it was 3 games. So the actual Cyberpunk game and then 2 others, whether those would have been released at the same time is questionable. And when you think about it, that's rather ambitious. It's like, imagine if Bioware came out with Mass Effect, and the first Mass Effect, and had 2 other games, whether they were mobile games or browser games or whatever. It would just be like, whoa, that's really ambitious. I mean, they're really doing their all. They're really, really confident on producing one great product and then having a second one. And then they're saying, hey, you know what? We can do a third one. And it turns out this entire story is not real. It was a translation error from a website using Google Translate. And it was from a Polish website called bankier.pl, which quoted CDProjektRED president saying, we're working on 3 Cyberpunk things over the main game and over 2 more. But because it was from Google Translate, things got a little mashed up. So what ends up happening was we currently have a total of 5 teams working on a number of projects, with 3 focusing on the development of Cyberpunk 2077. So these include CD Projekt Red Warsaw and I guess Krakow, who are handling the main game, as well as the Wroclaw studio, where around 40 industry specialists are engaged in tech R&D. So a separate dedicated team at the Warsaw studio is handling the development of Gwent. The final team is Spacco, or Spoko, which is currently working on a yet unannounced mobile project. So they are working on other games. It's just not two other Cyberpunk games, which is more believable. I don't know if that's a better choice. I mean, obviously, people still love The Witcher, and why shouldn't this famous and well functioning studio do even more with other projects? And I would imagine it would be rather ambitious and I'd say overly confident to produce more than one game within the same franchise or the same world at the launch of another game when this is really, I mean, just focus on one really great game. And if you have other studios doing other things, good on them. That's amazing. But take it as it goes. I'm glad. I'm kind of happy that. Well, part of me is disappointed because that would mean they're really confident. They really know what they're doing. But as we can see from this screenshot, I can zoom in a bit here. This is a work in progress. It does not represent the final look of the game. So I don't think much is going to change in the next year. If it does, that's probably not a good sign of storytelling. You'd have to rewrite a lot of other scenes. You'd have to redo the background stories. You have to redo whatever, any other plot lines or subplots or quest lines that have to do with the background of V and her character or his character. So part of me is happy, part of me is sad, but I have a lot of confidence in CD Projekt Red regardless that they're going to make a amazing RPG experience and in a game who's named after an entire subgenre of science fiction. It's overly ambitious as well, and I think it's a good sign that if they limit the scope and limit their efforts to only one game, I think they're going to see more success and a much more polished experience than to be worrying about two other projects within the same franchise. So, not to say they couldn't do it. I'm just happy that they're focused on one product. So that's all for me. Have a great day.